Today on The Big Story, the UK is set for yet another general election. Competition heats up for food delivery firms. And inside the Istana, ST's multimedia package to mark the Istana's 150th anniversary. Hello, I'm Dylan Ang and welcome to The Big Story, where we cover the top stories of the day and explain why it matters. For our first story, the UK is set for yet another general election this December. It's the third in 5 years. In his fourth bid, Prime Minister Boris Johnson finally won Parliament's support to resolve their Brexit deadlock. Speaking earlier in the House of Commons, Prime Minister Johnson argued that a new and revitalised Parliament was needed to take Britain out of the European Union. He told MPs, "We are left with no choice but to go to the country to break free from this impasse." The ruling Conservatives will campaign to get Brexit done by pushing through PM Johnson's deal, while the main opposition, Labour Party, is promising a second referendum to let the people resolve the EU question. Now with us to tell us more is foreign editor Jeremy Aoyong. Hey Jeremy.
Hi Dylan.
Welcome to the show. Now Jeremy, why should we in Singapore be interested in a general election that is happening all the way in the UK?
Okay. So, they've had this election now, as you said in your intro, 3 times in 5 years. So the election itself is not that significant. The significance really is going to be its impact on Brexit.
Right.
And this is an election, more or less, that will determine the outcome of Brexit and whether UK leaves it or not. Now, why Singaporeans need to care about Brexit? There are a lot of reasons. Okay, there are 2 big reasons. First is the economy. So, UK leaving Europe, leaving the EU or not leaving the EU, that will have a tremendous impact on the global economy.
Right.
And Singapore, well, most other countries need to care about this. Singapore is quite exposed to the global economy. And actually this has been a year where the Singapore economy has already been badly affected by things like the US-China trade war. So we could do without another shock, and Brexit would be a shock. The second reason I think people need to care about Brexit is a little bit more profound, and that is about its impact on the EU. So the EU was really this first experiment at bringing countries together, forming a union to actually avoid the circumstances that led to the 2 disastrous world wars. So it has been this symbol, and we've always assumed, I think a lot of people assumed until the first Brexit vote, that the arc of history was always bending towards unity and integration. And it's countries coming together. Even in this region, ASEAN, we always talk about the ASEAN Economic Community, forming one community with our neighbours. If Brexit does happen, it would be the first real example of disintegration of a country leaving a union, and I think that would be quite a dangerous precedent.
Right. You briefly touched about this, but on looking at the bigger picture, what do you think? Do you think that this election is going to resolve anything, and what does this mean for the whole Brexit saga?
Well, I hope we resolve something, but the way Brexit has gone this past year is really hard to tell.
Right.
But basically, Parliament I think Boris Johnson has basically given up trying to solve the Brexit question in Parliament. So he's now putting the question back to the people. So the Brexit deal is on hold right now. He has decided to do the election first. And there are many reasons why people vote the government. In any general election, there are many reasons why people vote the way they do. This one feels like it's going to be distilled to this one question. It will function as a proxy second referendum. The Conservative Party, the ruling Boris Johnson's party right now, does not have a majority in Parliament. So it technically doesn't have a mandate. I think there's 288 seats, or 650. If it wins the election, that would be a clear sign from the British people that we want you to push through your Brexit deal. If any of the other parties do well, then that's a different message. So the Labour Party, the main opposition party, has said it wants to hold a second referendum. the other two, the Liberal Democrats and SNP, have been quite clear they are just anti-Brexit. So it does feel to me like this election, depending who they will vote into government, will decide the fate of Brexit.
So it's quite clear, it's going to be quite a clear sign, possibly.
It better be.
Well, thanks so much, Jeremy, for that. Now, if you'd like to keep up with all the latest developments in the UK, of course, you can always head on down to our website at straitstimes.com. And once again, thanks so much, Jeremy, for being on the show.
Thanks.
Now, moving on to our second story, Foodpanda said today that it will be delivering more than just food. From groceries to flowers, the delivery service has teamed up with more than 1,000 retailers in Singapore. And we can expect its competitors to come up with more services as competition heats up. For example, Deliveroo allows restaurants to promote or advertise itself to stand out from the crowded field. There are more than 8,000 establishments there. Meanwhile, GrabFood uses its fleet to deliver seasonal food like durians and mooncakes. Here with us to discuss this is journalist Chu Yun Ting. Hey Yun Ting.
Hey, hi Dylan.
Thanks for being on the show. Now Yun Ting, don't these food delivery firms make enough money already from selling food?
Well, yes and no, right? I mean, they can never say no to having more revenue streams. So while they have already reported revenue growth in the last couple of years, these companies are still not profitable yet. Right? So, and there are very thin margins in food delivery. So they're always looking for more ways to increase their sales. So, and one way you mentioned, so Foodpanda is going to deliver not just food, but also groceries and beauty products, among others. I mean, GrabFood has durians, doing mooncakes as well. So I think all these companies in general, they're looking at how they can boost their revenue through other F&B related services. So for one, I think they're looking at marketing. So they really have the capabilities to offer marketing as a service to the restaurants, the vendors that they operate on their platforms. So they're just going one step further, offering marketing as an additional service.
Right.
Yeah, and then another way which food delivery companies are trying to increase their sales is through moving up the supply chain. Right, so they're operating cloud kitchens. These are really central kitchens where restaurants come in and then they deliver out of these central kitchens, which really helps them save a lot of costs in terms of logistics, right? Yeah, and also another one is getting involved with the supply or coordinating the supply of raw materials, like vegetables, raw meat to hawkers. Yeah, so like a lot of different ways which they're moving in.
Yeah, I think the thing you mentioned about the central kitchen, I think that's, to me, was the most exciting kind of idea. But, looking at the bigger picture, basically, how has these food delivery companies changed Singaporeans' eating behaviors?
Well, do you order from food delivery companies?
I mean, I personally don't, but I know a lot of people who do it. So, do you think it's for better or for worse?
Well, it's hard to say whether it's better or for worse. So definitely as a consumer, you have a lot more choice, right? You're not limited to, the coffee shop opposite or like taking MRT somewhere to eat. So in terms of choice, you do have a lot of options, but at the same time, when you order food online, it's going to be more expensive, right? It's not absolutely like fresh from the kitchen to your table. But so I think it's changed the way how people see the experience of dining out. Whether it's going to be a long-term change, it's very hard to be sure, because I mean, food delivery has really been in Singapore for a few years now, and even before these players were in, you had Pizza Hut and McDonald's are doing their delivery. So I don't think it really changes how people eat, but with the types of food that food delivery companies are delivering now, for example, bubble tea, you can get it through these platforms. So it changes how we see food, and maybe that's something that will continue to change with the years ahead. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Yun Ting, for sharing with us actually a bit more about this. I think that increasingly food delivery is going to be a major player, not just in Singapore actually, but in the whole world. Yeah, just in the whole world. So of course, if you'd like to see the full article, you can always head on down to our website at straitstimes.com. And once again, thanks so much, Yun Ting, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Now, moving on to our last segment, would you like to fly along the grand facade of the Istana, walk under the chandeliers of the State Room, or visit secluded spots inside the grounds that few know about? Well, you can now experience the main Istana building up close in augmented reality or AR. This is part of a special multimedia project by the Straits Times in collaboration with the Istana to mark its 150th anniversary. The project includes a video series on the longest-serving staff of the Istana called Faces of the Istana. They include a butler, a chef, and a gardener. A walkthrough video also takes the viewer to secluded spots that few people know about. Through interactive tools, learn about the rich history and unique architectural features of the National Monument. Now, to tell us more about this project, I am joined by interactive graphics journalist Rebecca Pezos, as well as executive photo journalist Benjamin Sitor. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
Now, Benjamin, let's start with you. You know, one of the key highlights include aerial views of the Istana, and you were one of the drone pilots who captured the aerial footage, right?
Yeah. I think we are given great access into the Istana, and this is a collaboration with them for the 150th anniversary. And the key highlights is the aerial view of the Istana ground we have never seen before, and also 360 interior shots of the Istana done by my colleague Yao Hui.
Now, Benjamin, you know, what were some of the most challenging parts of aerial filming?
I think the challenges that we faced is in Istana mainly was the weather. So during that period from March to May, right, I think it was the rain season. So we went back a couple of times due to rain that we can't fly because the moment we take off, the rain came.
Right.
So most of the time, because we wanted to get a sunset shot of it, so most of the time we'll stand by in the office at about 4 o'clock. So we check the weather. When the weather is good, we'll rush down, call the press sec, rush down, and start to fly the drone. But on a couple of occasions, we couldn't. So we went back like 3 times to finally get our sunset shot that you've seen in the interactive.
Oh, so how long did the whole process take?
So the whole process took us from March to May. So another challenges that we face, because the Istana ground, there's a lot of tall trees and all.
Yeah.
So if you see that drone footage from Edinburgh Road, right, from the main gate right up to the main building, so because we had to fly at a certain height and under the tree, so so that was quite tricky for us also. Yeah.
Now, Rebecca, you know, shall we take a look at the AR feature of the Istana?
Sure. So the Istana main building is such a beautiful building, you know, and it's such a wonderful testament to current leaders, past leaders, and future leaders too. And you know, the building itself has its own story. So in order to look at that more architecturally, we decided to build it in 3D. Now this took some time, so our team of developers and designers actually had to hand draw each of the blocks and the columns and the structure because we only had access to photographs. So no blueprints, no floor plans to actually recreate it. But once we have the 3D model, we're able to use that in various different ways. So it's gone out in print in the newspaper. We've put it in this interactive graphic as well, and now we have augmented reality, which is the fun part. So here you can actually go to you're using your mobile device. We recommend newer ones than older ones because it's a new technology. But basically, you know, just having the SD app, you can open it up and you can see it in the space around you in your living room, in your workplace. And, you know, it starts off with an audio guide. So we actually tell you various features about it, including, you know, the foundation of the building. It was built on granite because underneath is actually quite crumbly sandstone. And then the actual building was, they brought over, I think, 3,000 plus Indian convict artisans and others from around that area, because they had the skills to be able to create the classical features that you see in this Istana. And then obviously it moves on to some of the cooling features. So they have like a lot of windows and verandas and a lot of space to deal with the weather in Singapore, and also the extension blocks that came on afterwards.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, it's the AR is really interactive. It's really nice for people to be able to explore the whole grounds, you know, on their own terms, basically.
Right, exactly. You can almost go into the Istana as well and have a look around all the little corridors and things.
Yeah, we were playing around with the AR a bit just now, and I thought it's really interactive. Like you said, you know, we can really go into the building and you know, just by using your mobile phone. So that's pretty incredible.
Pretty fun, yeah.
Well, thanks guys for coming onto the show and for giving us some insight onto the project. Now, of course, if you'd like to see the full multimedia package, you can always head on down to our website at straitstimes.com. And once again, thanks Benjamin and Rebecca for coming onto the show and telling us a bit more about this. Now, those were the top stories for the day. For more news and videos, you can always head on down to our website. And once again, I'm Dylan, and join us tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.